it's time to do this again, which is good. We've been talking to a number of people who have been nominated to be the Australian of the Year next year. Each state has now, and territory has released its list of nominees, and one of Tasmania's is Mark Holdsworth, who is a wildlife biologist and has spent many years of his life trying to protect an Australian animal that has a wild population of less than 50. And Mark joins us on the line. Hello, Mark.
G'day, James.
Congratulations on your nomination.
Thanks very much. I hope I don't get hiccups during this interview.
Yes, well, you know how to... you know what to do if you do. So you're a bird conservationist with the Department of Primary Industries in Hobart, and you've been nominated largely for your work with the endangered Orange-bellied Parrot. Now, how did you first become aware of this species and its predicament?
Well, it dates right back to 1979 when I joined the then Parks and Wildlife Service as a trainee ranger. So I was involved in the Parks and Wildlife Service. And we had an opportunity to spend some time working on the first recovery program for that species, and very little was known about the bird way back then. And so I helped out with a couple of my colleagues to learn about this bird.
Yep.
I spent a lot of time in southwest Tasmania, and through my career I've gained more and more experience with it, and it's been pretty much the core of my responsibilities for over 30 years.
Wow. And when you first became aware of the bird, was it on the brink of extinction?
Yeah, the history shows that this bird probably wasn't a very common bird when it was first discovered back in the 1800s. It's unique because it only breeds in Tasmania, but migrates to mainland Australia, so Victoria and South Australia.
We did a big story on bird migration a couple of weeks ago. Fascinating.
Yeah, so it's one of those birds that for unknown reasons moves its entire population northwards, probably driven by different food availability, and the population was thought to be in its thousands around the turn of the century, but there was very early concerns about the demise of the bird, and it probably almost certainly relates to changing habitat, so land clearance around coastal Victoria, South Australia and Tasmania in particularly during the 50s and 60s.
Right, so when you first became aware of it, I mean, are there about 50 now, is that right?
We know that there is somewhere less than 50. It's very hard to get a real handle on the number of these birds because they occupy the Southwest Wilderness World Heritage Area, and that's a vast wilderness. And
well, there could be lots of them.
It's unlikely to be lots of them. There's unlikely to be much more than what we think. There's one particular place in far southwest Tasmania called Melaleuca where we know they favour that place, and that's the centre of our study area, and we know exactly how many birds are there, but how many more outside that we're not entirely sure, but it's hard to imagine there's a large number there because we've searched high and low. We only can't bump into the odd bird now and again, so there's not a big group out there.
So you've devoted 30 years, a little bit more, to primarily trying to preserve this bird, other things as well, but that's been your primary focus, is that right?
It's certainly been the core of my work.
Yeah.
We work on all sorts of nature conservation projects in Tasmania, including Tasmanian devils and...
well, they're in trouble too, aren't they?
Yeah, that's right.
But with this bird, if this has been the primary focus of your work, why do you think the preservation of that particular species is so important?
Yeah, it's a good question. I often get...
I bet you do.
I often get this question. There's a couple of points to this. The demise of this species and many species takes a very long time, and often it's gradual. So the impacts are gradual. Habitat destruction takes a long time to have an impact. We bring in diseases, feral animals, and they manifest themselves over a very long time quite often. And to fix those problems is often not easy, particularly with migratory species. So this particular one is very hard to understand and to be able to manage over that big landscape. So it will take us a very long time to put things right. And I suppose that's the key is that sometimes we just can't fix things quickly, and you can look at a lot of conservation projects across Australia and see that problem. We just can't fix things quickly, unfortunately. It'd be nice to flick a switch and it's fixed.
So sort of the answer to my question, why is it so important, is it kind of guilt, in a way? Like, it's our fault, we should try and fix it.
Absolutely. I think we've got an obligation to put things right where we can.
Yeah.
And we're a wealthy country, and most Australians are really keen to do the right thing by their environment, and you can see that right throughout the country, both with threatened species projects and land care projects. Everyone's trying to put things right in many different ways, and this just happens to be one of those. It may be one that we don't succeed with because it is very complex, but to not try, I think, would be a failure.
And is your primary argument, when you're looking for funding for these projects, is that we should preserve this bird, the orange-bellied parrot, because there used to be thousands of them, now there's only a few, and it's our fault? Or do you have an additional argument that, and we have taken out a pivotal part of the ecosystem and the environment, and if there's no more of them, it'll have all these knock-on consequences? That is, are you able to make the argument that if you can preserve this species, it'll be good not just for the species, but there'll be lots of other consequences, positive ones, for the environment?
Yeah, and like a lot of these things, we don't know how these birds might fit into the ecosystems, but extinction is forever. So once it's gone, we don't know what the real value of this animal and any other threatened species might be for the health of the environment, and also how this species may evolve in future with changing environments, climate change and things. So it might be a species that becomes very important as we go on. So I think we've got opportunities to save species, or at least hold back the tide, then I think it's important to do so.
And of course, a lot of it's raising awareness, isn't it? And if you, as one of Tasmania's nominees for Australian of the Year, on the long list, if you become Tasmania's nominee, and then if you became Australian of the Year, well, that'd do the sort of awareness thing in spades, wouldn't it?
I'd be absolutely amazed, and I'm really honoured to be in that list of people, and I'd certainly use that opportunity to promote this bird, but more broadly threatened species conservation and conservation generally, because I think we've got a lot of work to do. There's a lot of people out there with enthusiasm and goodwill, and I think we can achieve a lot with some good effort.
So you would see, if you did make the next step up, you'd see yourself not just representing the orange-bellied parrot, but conservationists everywhere and endangered species everywhere.
Oh, absolutely. And my career on working on this bird, I've used to help out other projects right across the country. I don't do normal holidays. I go and help out colleagues in my holidays. So,
do you?
Oh, yeah. So I do a fair bit of work on Christmas Island on an endangered bird of prey out there called the Christmas Island goshawk.
Oh, wow.
It's usually an excuse to get to a warmer environment, of course.
What sort of work? They're sort of studying them?
Yeah, so we've had a banding study for this endangered bird, and we've been studying it for nearly 10 years now, and so we're gaining basic biological information on it, which then can be fed into conservation projects for the species.
Cool. And look, let's end in a depressing way. So we talked about the good things that might happen. If there comes a day when the orange-bellied parrot does become extinct, 30 years of your life, that'd be a dark day indeed for you, would it not?
It would be certainly a sad day, but I'll turn this into positive news, is that this bird won't go extinct entirely, because we do have a secure captive population. So it may become extinct in the wild. That's the biggest risk, but I'm very confident that our captive breeding program would then become a captive animal. Unfortunately, that'd be sad to see.
Can you ever let them go wild again?
Well, we're actually in the process of considering releasing birds back into the wild, so that's part of our conservation project. We'll be attempting to bolster the wild population to get it above this low 50, and hopefully there is light at the end of the tunnel. We're pretty confident this little bird will give it a good shot anyway. But
how many you got in captivity?
It's over 300 now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we're looking to bolster that population to 350, 400.
And when you say in captivity, like they're not in tiny little cages, are they?
No, we've got some partner organisations in the zoo industry, so Hillsville Sanctuary, Adelaide Zoo. We've got a big facility here in Hobart in our department, and so it's shared around, so we don't put all our eggs in one basket, as it were.
Yeah.
And it's a coordinated project, and we'll be looking hopefully to release birds in this year, so a small number this year, but bigger numbers in the years to come.
Well, good to talk to you, Mark, and congratulations on being one of Tasmania's nominees for Australian of the Year, and best of luck with that, but more importantly with the Orange-bellied Parrot.
Thanks very much.
Good to talk to you. That is Mark Holdsworth. You're on ABC Local Radio.